and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at Notorious KRO. With me, as always, is Brian Twining. Follow him at Grease Rules 14. We are talking Quaker State 400, DFS, betting, updating the betting cards. Qualifying happened this morning, as in there was no qualifying, and they set it based on previous races, and I think the overall and a few other things. So we have the running order, which is what we need to build DraftKings lineups, to update our betting card, and do all that stuff. But before we do that, Brian Twining, are you ready for tomorrow's race?
Oh, I'm sure as hell hoping they actually get it in, because there is rain in the forecast. I guess there's like scattered thunder showers in the forecast for the next couple of days. So we'll see if they're able to get a complete race in. I just want to see the cars go around, see the big one, and see them get to the finish line. That's all I really care about.
Yep, we'll see. I think today will be a good test with the Xfinity. It works out well that the trucks are racing on a different track today in Mid-Ohio, which kind of limits what they have to do in Atlanta. But yeah, I could easily see a Monday morning finish, or hell, Tuesday morning, and then add some, get enough laps in between the couple days and figure it out. But yeah, I mean,
and again, I wouldn't mind that either. Just, working from home. It's great having that on.
Yeah, and take advantage of it for sure. So another productive week last week. Obviously not our, we didn't win $1 million or anything, but solid week on DraftKings, solid week at the book, and hopefully we can find a way to get to victory lane again, maybe build some units, keep that bankroll going, all of the good stuff. So without further ado, let's jump into it and let's talk DraftKings. And I'll pull it up here and we'll kind of just run through some names. This is what we do each and every week here on Sunday morning. So make sure if you're new to the channel, you're subscribed, you hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. And if we get to 500 subs before the NASCAR playoff, we will be giving away a Christopher Bell signed mini helmet. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you click the bell notification. Let us know your favorite DFS play below 9K. So starting anywhere from Daniel Suarez down, who are you most excited to get into your DraftKings lineups this week? If you're not playing DraftKings, let us know your favorite top 10 bet. And if you're doing both, then tell us both. So, but yeah, do all those things. Really helps us a lot. It takes you a couple minutes, and we'll enter you to potentially win a chance to win a Christopher Bell signed mini helmet. So without further ado, Brian, let's jump into it, and let's start in that 10K range. We got 4 names to discuss. Ryan Blaney starting 6th, Chase Elliott starting 1st, Rouse Chastain starting 2nd, and Kyle Larson starting 3rd. This also happens to be the top of the betting board. So I think this will be crucial, but I guess in terms of a DraftKings perspective, are you going in on this range? Are you skipping this range? And if you are going in, who's your top 1 or 2 options?
I mean, it's really difficult to start from this spot, knowing the kind of race that we're expected to see. I mean, there was 20 different guys to lead a lap last race. These super speedway tracks are very conducive to guys moving from the back to the front, and this happens throughout the day. So it's hard to get to the guys that are starting at the top of the field. I think Chase Elliott, I know he's the second most expensive guy, and he is starting on pole, but he's been one of the best drivers the last couple of races. I mean, he's coming off of a win, and I think that he's going to be strong again. So I wouldn't mind starting with him right there. I mean, he's run pretty well super speedways this season, not necessarily throughout his career, but if you're going to go that 10K range, I think he makes as much sense as anybody.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And, in general, this is probably a good range to avoid. Just load up on guys starting near the back, get that movement point, get the finishing position, and call it a day. Of this group, I think Ryan Blaney makes the most sense to me. Obviously, starting 6th instead of 1st or 2nd or 3rd. Plus has just as much history at this track and has been really good on this style, but also is really expensive, and kind of you really need him to win the race to really warrant that salary. So I think diving down to the next chunk is where things get really interesting. We got Kyle Busch starting 19th. We got Denny Hamlin starting 16th. We got Joey Logano starting 17th. Your guy William Byron starting 13th. And then we have last week's winner Tyler Reddick and starting 4th, and then Truex kind of rounds out the 9Ks. Is this just as simple as kind of cross Reddick and Truex off and kind of just go with the other 4 who are kind of starting mid-pack and Kyle Busch being the best option of the group?
Yeah, honestly, the one thing that I do worry about is, again, we're stuck in this in this situation where the Toyotas are coming off of a race where they looked absolutely terrible. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of speed they bring to Atlanta, especially without practice and qualifying. So we really don't have a clue what these cars are going to look at. That being said, Denny Hamlin has been probably the best super speedway racer over the last few years. So I mean, him starting 16th at 9,700, he's probably going to work his way up to the front of the field. I think he's probably my favorite in this 99 to 9K range.
Yeah, no, and I think your point about the Toyotas is interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on them, and obviously with no, like as you mentioned, no qualifying, that does make it a little bit more challenging. But yeah, there's value. Logano's also been great out of this range, and I know we have a love-hate relationship where and kind of really go back and forth with how much exposure we really want to him, but he has been really impressive at super speedways, has been really fast at the super speedways in the new car, and starting 17th. I mean, he is also another really compelling option. Like, I wouldn't blame anybody who just skips all the 10K guys, goes Hamlin, Logano, and calls it, and keeps diving from there, because that's where the fun really begins. And I think as we dive into the 8K range, Bubba Wallace starting 32nd, 8,700, I think is going to be very, very popular, and I think for the right reasons.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point you make, and I think too this is where the betting world and like the DFS world kind of intertwine with each other, because if you go to the betting board and you look at the top of the board here, the top 10 guys, you got Bubba Wallace, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano. All of those dudes are within the very similar range of like 14-1 or so. So, I mean, if that's what the sports books are saying, that they have that good of odds to win the race, and you get a Bubba Wallace starting 32nd at $8,700 for a guy that's expected to compete for the win, that's probably somebody you want to have in your lineups.
Yeah, 100%. And even if you aren't betting every week and you're just playing DraftKings or playing FanDuel, taking a look at the betting board, taking a look at top 5s, top 10s, and kind of seeing where sports books are putting these guys, gives you a good jumping off point, a good idea of kind of where to go. The next guy, 8,500, Christopher Bell, we're both really excited about. Has also had success at super speedways. He is starting 15th, so pretty decent salary there for a guy who has a chance to move up quite a bit. Kurt Busch right behind him, starting 21st. Austin Cindric's a guy I'm really excited about this week, but from a DraftKings perspective, not sure I'm going to get there. If I do one sort of pseudo dominator, he could be the option just because he's affordable, and I expect him to have a strong race. But once again, starting 5th, it's really hard to really rack up points in a super speedway with so many laps, with so many chances of cars sideswiping you or losing a wheel or whatever. So, we'll see if we end up getting there. Chase Briscoe starts off the 7K range with Alex Bowman, Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, Michael McDowell, Stenhouse Jr., and Christopher Buescher. Let's talk the 7K range, and obviously any of these kind of other 8K range guys you really want to make sure we hit on.
Well, I mean, we can't go down the list without mentioning Kurt Busch, who has kind of been a major surprise for the 2311 team. I mean, there's been weeks where he's been the best car on the track, and I think that this is another opportunity for him to show that speed. And like you said, Cindric, although he's starting 5th at 8,100, could be a good way to pivot off of some of those other extremely popular drivers. But then for me, just going all the way to the bottom of that 7K range, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Christopher Buescher starting 20th and 11th, I think both offer some tremendous value, especially knowing Buescher was running inside the top 5 at both Daytona and Talladega this year prior to being wrecked once by his teammate, the name I shall not mention. And, Stenhouse, he's a guy who he's popped a few times this year, and it's looked like he was going to top 10 or even crack a top 5, but he's nicknamed Ricky Spinhouse for a reason. So you're
Yeah.
taking the risk with him. But at races like this, I would prefer to save salary and leave a ton at the table when building my lineup and going towards guys at the back end.
Yep, I completely agree. And Almirola starting 22nd is somebody that I think I'm going to gravitate towards a lot more. He's another driver that does a little bit better at super speedways than I think people realize. Obviously, starting 22nd, you don't need him to win the race; just need him to get maybe around that flirt with that top 10 finish. I think he could absolutely do that. When we flip over to the betting card, you'll see why. 7,400 makes a lot of sense, and I think is a lot more reliable. So if you're pairing him with a Ricky Spinouts,
true,
a nice combo that, okay, I can get a little safety with Almirola, I can get my upside shot with Stenhouse, and go from there. Keep it rolling, and as we dive into the 6Ks, and this is where it really gets fun. Austin Dillon, 6,900. Eric Jones starting 25th, 6,700. The guy that Brian hates more than almost any driver on the track, Brett Keselowski. I know you hate him. I know he wrecks people. I know he's annoying. But my God, starting 31st at 6,500, it's going to be hard to stay away from him this week on DraftKings. You also have Justin Haley, Cole Custer, Ty Dillon, Noah Gragson, who will probably turn left even though it's a straightaway. Todd Gilliland starting 28th, Harrison Burton starting 27th. Like, there's a lot of names in here. And if you cobble together the right order and the right group, you could find yourself having a really nice payday come Sunday or Monday or whenever the race is over.
Yeah, I mean, I hate admitting it, but RFK team owner there, he's not a bad value. I mean, starting 31st at 6,500, the team in general has looked really good early on in super speedway races this year. That is, again, prior to he himself causing the wrecks. But, him, Corey LaJoie starting 30th at 5,400. All you're asking is for him not to lose spots at that salary number, and he's likely to finish in the mid 20s, which would be a tremendous boon to your roster with all the salary savings. And then just like peppering the board with a guy like Justin Haley, who coming into the year for the Daytona 500 was kind of one of the sleeper picks, the top 10, and potentially compete up there. So at 6,000, like 6,300, pardon me, that there's some great value. And I wouldn't even fault somebody for building an entire lineup of guys that are like in the 75 and below range and wind up cashing.
Yeah, you could have a really nice day just eliminating half the field, because anybody's gonna be really popular, just eliminate them. And you'll have a really chance. Now, this is GPP, obviously, which is how we kind of build our lineups.
Yeah.
If you are looking for cash, of building a lineup like that's probably not the move. But yeah, there's a ton of value here. There's a ton of potential. And, Justin Haley is a great call as a guy who, opened, I think, 60-1 to win the 500 and was quickly to 35. So there's obviously excitement and anticipation of him on super speedway tracks. Obviously, on a week-to-week basis, he hasn't been the greatest, but this is a good spot for him to remind people why he's in the Cup Series and why he is kind of one of those younger drivers really trying to make a name for himself. So with that being said, Brian, shall we build a lineup?
Let's do it.
Give me the name that has to go in. Who's your first off the board has to be in there?
It's got to be Eric Jones.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a must.
6,700. I agree. I know you're gonna hate this, but I'm putting him in. I don't care. Keep it rolling. Where are we going next?
I'm going to go against what I was just talking about staying at the bottom of the board. Then let's add Denny Hamlin. I think his starting position at 16th at 9,700 is a little bit of salary savings amongst those top guys, but he offers the same potential as the top of the board.
Yeah, and I could see Logano being popular, starting one spot back and $100 cheaper, and maybe Hamlin gets a little overlooked, or at least the ownership will be split a little bit. I'm gonna put Bubba in 32nd, 8,700. It's hard to avoid it. We have two spots left. We have 9,200. There's obviously a ton we can do. We can absolutely leave a couple thousand on the table. Fine doing that. Is there a name or two that you're kind of gravitating towards? Because there's 3, 4, 5 names for me.
I mean, it depends on like how much we want to leave on the board, because now we're in the situation where we could go to the top and squeeze one of those guys in there.
Yeah. For me, I'd much rather stay in this range. I think two of Christopher
Yeah,
Bell, Kurt Busch, Almirola, Stenhouse.
I was gonna say
Uh,
let's go with Ricky Spinhouse,
okay.
starting 20th, middle of the pack. I like his potential here, top 15, top 10.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. And then it's really, man, it's tough because obviously we can we can do whatever we want, but I think for me it's either Kurt Busch or Almirola. Um, if like I know Almirola is probably the safer option, but does Kurt Busch give us more upside on a super speedway? Is he a guy that ends up maybe having a chance to top 5 this race? Or am I overthinking it? Maybe that's what a lot of people will do, and Almirola will actually go kind of sneaky under the radar.
Well, I mean, Kurt Busch finished third here in the spring.
Okay.
He's won a race this year. He's competed at multiple events this season. He's been one of the fastest cars on track at a few of the races. So I think Busch offers the
Do it.
best upside amongst
Let's
those
do it.
two, and especially when you're doing GPP, that's kind of what you're looking for.
Yep. Pepper the back of the field, find that value. I like that we added Hamlin here. I think that gives us a guy who can really win this race, which I think is something interesting. And maybe not necessarily, starting to the front, but definitely leads our guys. And we still have 3,000 left on the table, so give us a little bit of differentiation and kind of put it together. I'm excited for this week. I probably will build several more lineups and kind of cobble together because as fun as this could be, there's going to be wrecks, there's going to be issues, there's going to be guys that um, don't finish the race. So I think finding a few core options and then kind of pivoting around with different pieces. Kurt Busch in one, Almirola in one, maybe fade Bubba, maybe fade Keselowski. Take Ricky Spinouts out and put in someone else. There's a lot you could do with kind of this core. So I think this is how I will build a few of my lineups for Sunday's race. Hopefully they get to make it to the end, and hopefully Ivy will be talking about all the money we made when we reconvene on Wednesday. Let's flip over and talk some betting odds. Look, obviously the numbers haven't really moved a ton because we didn't have qualifying, because we didn't have major shifts in the running order. Obviously, we know where we're starting. We have Elliott, Blaney, and Chastain up front. Hamlin is kind of that next guy, but starting 16th where his number is pretty crazy. Ditto for Kyle Busch,
Yep.
who is starting like in the 19th. As the week has gone on of the elite tier, have you changed your mind? Have you added anybody? Are you more interested in potentially backing one of these elite options? As you've thought about it more?
Honestly, I mean, I was on his train early on this year, and I still think it's inevitable that he wins a regular season race. But that's got to be Ryan Blaney,
Yeah,
sitting at 10-1. It's hard to bet guys at these kinds of races at that, even at that number, which normally during a week you're happy to get double digits,
sure.
but at a race that is as variable as this one, 10-1 is still pretty short, but
Yep.
I could see myself going in about a half a unit on that, just because Blaney is the kind of guy who does perform really well at super speedways, and he's eventually going to win a regular season race, at least I believe so.
Our futures tickets definitely require that. So
Yes.
definitely in the conversation. I think Ross is really interesting too. In this range, he's had such a great season. I think he can absolutely do it. And then obviously all these guys can. Kyle Larson being priced where he is, I know his season hasn't gone the way he wants, and gonna be probably hard for me to get there, but it is interesting to see him finally gravitating the way he should. Kind of go down to the next range. I have two outrights currently on the card. The first one is Bubba Wallace at 14-1. I like that number still. I think he can absolutely win this race. I don't know that I love it at 12, because when you start talking 12, that's when you start talking about even like Joey Logano, but like Kyle Busch, you can get Denny Hamlin, just guys that in terms of winning races, I feel a little bit better about and have done it more consistently over the years.
Yeah.
So that is interesting. We talked Kurt Busch as kind of our last guy in the DFS streets, but 18-1, 20-1, decent numbers on him, shows he has that winning upside. I mean, he's in a range with some real names. Daniel Suarez is somebody that I'm gravitating towards. He's a guy that, in past years was kind of just a super speedway option that kind of didn't really do much elsewhere. Now he's obviously on Trackhouse, being, competitive each and every week, run the road course out in Sonoma. So he's just somebody that my eyes kind of gravitate towards. And then your guy, Christopher Bell, this 22 number, if you can get that, is really compelling, but there's definitely some value in his number. Any other outrights you want to look to add before we move to head-to-heads and then, look at some other finishing position type stuff?
I mean, as fun as it is to try to pick a winner, these races are such a crapshoot. I mean, you're basically throwing your money onto a craps table at this point and just hoping that your number comes up with these bets. I mean, you could talk about how good somebody performs at super speedways all we want until our mouth bleeds, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to wreck or be part of the big one or, be second at the end of the race as Austin Cindric did to Bubba and Ryan Blaney during the 500. Like this could be a 50-1 winner or something like that. It's just not something I'm willing to go too deep on as far as the outright market.
I mean, the other outright I have is Eric Jones. Brian, speaking of 50-1, we're currently holding that from our previous show. Is he still 50-1?
At Caesars, yeah.
He's still 50-1 at Caesars. If you can grab that, I highly recommend it. 40 is fine. I think when you start talking 30s and 20s, it's getting a little short for my liking. If you can still find Almirola north of 35, 40, I think that's worth the shot. I know FanDuel they're always slow, so I'm not sure how on track these are, but I'm guessing, try and use the best of the numbers. Stenhouse is still compelling. 35 I'm good with. 40 I'm good with. 25 is a little,
that's getting a little
short as much as I like Stenhouse, but Stenhouse really is that boomer bust Ricky Bobby kind of driver where he's either going to win or he's going to, crash out trying to win. So this is definitely a better market than DraftKings or placements if you're looking to back him. And then we're getting real reckless. Let's look at some head-to-heads and see if we can't find some value. Bubba's getting all the money here, which absolutely should. Tyler Reddick against Austin Dillon. I've been looking at this all week. Am I crazy for looking at this, or I know Reddick's coming off the win, but my God, this plus money.
I mean, historically, Dillon has probably been better at super speedways.
Yeah. But he hasn't. It's hard to tell because we've only had the one Atlanta race since they adjusted the track, and now obviously runs much more like a super speedway. Plus, we're going to have different temperatures. We thought we would get hot weather, being the South in the middle of July, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Actually, it looks like we're going to get some rain and keep it a little bit cooler. We'll see how the humidity affects the cars, how the heat and other stuff affects the tires, so we'll have to pay attention. But I'm still compelled to look at this way. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. Another one that's really compelling. I do like Suarez here. We talked about Logano. We talked about how good he was. I'm gonna. This is gonna hurt, but I'm gonna put Brad Keselowski over Kevin Harvick. I know it's gross. I know I'm probably setting myself up for punishment, but even money and a driver that I think has been really good and the numbers back up at super speedways against Kevin Harvick, who has been fine, but I could see both of these guys being in similar conversations and give me the plus money.
I really wish we could have a teammate battle, Buescher versus Keselowski.
Yeah. I mean, we can set our own lines and but make both sides -110 and call it a day. I'm happy to do that.
No. We got to go with listed matchups here. There's clearly a differential amongst the expectations of these two, if they're not, especially with the amount of driver matchups that DK in particular has posted right now.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even gone through like a quarter of the matchups right now, and we're looking at all these. I don't hate this either. I know it's Chase Elliott, who's been great and could easily win this race, but plus money on Bubba. But I guess if he's going to beat Chase, he's probably going to top 5 or win the race. So maybe that's not the plus EV move, as the kids say.
Oh, there we go. I just found my.
Is it in the same order as yours, or is it different?
It's a little bit different. The last one on my list is going onto my card, and that's Ryan Blaney over Joey Logano.
Love it.
I'll lay the juice at -120. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I could be a real like gross card week and fit and go against you, and then have Logano and Keselowski I'm rooting for, but I don't know if I could do that to myself. Byron over Larson's interesting. Cindric over Harvick. I'm gonna take that too. I'm a fade Kevin Harvick this week. I'm a big Cindric fan. I already have him over Bowman. Let's see, what else do I have? -115. Yep. So I added Cindric over Harvick and Keselowski over Harvick. I have Cindric over Bowman. I have Suarez over Logano at even money. So that is my head-to-head card for the week. Do I dare? I think I'm good. I think I don't need to set myself up for the disaster. Kyle Busch versus Daniel Suarez. Kurt Busch versus Almirola is interesting.
I mean, if you feel really strong about a particular driver, or you have a good idea that somebody's going to absolutely suck this week, this is as good a week as any to attack them.
I know like Austin Dillon's upside is good, but Almirola is such a more consistent driver. And I could see Austin Dillon losing a wheel or getting involved in the big one or whatever. So I'll take that -110 and I'll add to my head-to-head cards because I'm a glutton for punishment.
Well, it'll also. I'm really interested to see how the teams of Christopher Bell and Bubba Wallace transition into each other's pit stalls. Like, we know that Christopher Bell was having his own issues, and so was Bubba Wallace's team. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to kind of get their beep together.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that they just like, actually, we'll trade. I know they're having all these teams are having issues, so maybe they're trying to mix it up, but interesting nonetheless. Chastain over Kyle Busch. Let us know down in the comments if you found a head-to-head you love, and where you found it, and we'll definitely look to see if we want to add to our card. I did want to look at one other thing before we get our best bets, Brian, and get out of here. There is on Caesars and obviously other books you can find good numbers too. But you can do top Chevy, top Toyota, top Ford. And I found a couple bets I really liked for the week. And I wanted to get your feedback. So Austin Cindric as the top Ford at 750 is pretty compelling. Obviously there's 15 options. So I'll have to screenshot this, but I am all in on Cindric this week. I actually don't have an outright. Maybe I should do that. But I found a top 5 at plus 350. I'm going to add top Ford at 750. I actually found it at another book at 9-1, but I will take the number that I can find for the podcast. So I think that would be my number there. And then the other number I really like is top Toyota. We talked about Christopher Bell a little bit. I know Bubba can win. I know Hamlin's been great. I know Kyle Busch is good, but Christopher Bell at 7-1 is a good number to be top Toyota. So I'm going to add that as well.
I mean, that's a pretty good number knowing you only got to finish ahead of five other drivers.
Exactly. And so, you could go with a top 5, but you're not getting that good of a number.
Yep.
You could go with the win, but you're getting a better number, but like
Yeah,
that's
that's a lot less likely to happen.
just give me knock these guys out, and Christopher Bell is in the front and we're fine. This is fun. Ford versus Toyota minus 115, and Ford versus Chevy.
Any
Chevy.
interest in their odds boost at the bottom?
Let's go to their odds boost. Where is the odds boost?
Oh, you don't even have it. So it's 2311 Racing Odds Boost. Kurt Busch, Bubba Wallace, or Denny Hamlin to win the Quaker State 400 at plus 400.
That's interesting.
Those odds seem pretty short though for
So like
a 14, a 12 to 1, and then a 22 or 25 to 1 in Kurt Busch.
Yeah, I think I would rather, like, obviously you could take your 100, put it on there and call it a day, but I would rather take my 100, put like, I don't know, $50 on Hamlin to win, 35 on Bubba to win, and 15 on Kurt Busch to win. I think you would get a better payday across the board.
For sure.
But maybe not. So what, I guess, let's say, so if you put $50 on, if you put $50 on Hamlin to win, that's 500. And then if you put 35 on
Kurt
Bubba,
or on Bubba,
what's that? You're better at math than I am.
It's probably like 400 and something.
Yeah, so it's about the same. And then like another $15 on Kurt Busch at 18. It's probably not quite as close, but pretty close. But yeah, I think dividing and conquering like that is probably more of the move. So let's pull up the bet tracker. Let's show the people where we're at, what we got going on. So Bubba and Eric Jones are my outrights. I have Ross Chastain to top 10. William Byron to top 10 was my best bet from last week, or from Wednesday rather. Bubba Wallace top 5, Almirola top 10, Eric Jones top 10, Cindric to top 5, Suarez over Logano, Cindric over Bowman, Keselowski over Harvick, Cindric over Harvick, Almirola over Dillon, Cindric top Ford, and Christopher Bell top Toyota. Give the people your card and what you're looking at for your best bet.
So as you can see, sticking with the Eric Jones and Chris Buescher team up this weekend on my outrights. Buescher and Eric Jones top 10s, with Jones being my best bet from earlier this week. I got Ty Dillon, Corey LaJoie also in the top 10 market at odds that have shrunk a slightly tiny bit heading into tomorrow. My top 5s: Bubba, Chris Buescher, Eric Jones again. He's very prominent on my card. Chris Buescher over Harvick, Christopher Bell over Logano, Buescher over Bowman, Buescher over Briscoe. I added a Blaney outright at 10 to 1 for a half unit, and I'm taking Ryan Blaney over Joey Logano at minus 120 as well.
I like it. Who do you think is going to let you down worse, Christopher Buescher or Eric Jones? Or who are you more worried about letting you down, rather?
It's clearly Eric Jones. Anytime I've really bet him, like, the worry is whether or not he can get to the last lap.
It's that last like quarter of stage 3 that just
exactly.
So I like Bubba quite a bit, and I have a lot of him this week. Eric Jones, like, obviously from the outright card, don't love him starting there, but it's also super speedway, so it doesn't really matter. Eric Jones, a lot of exposure there, and then Austin Cindric is my other big exposure this week. So Brian Twining, before we get out of here, tell the people your best bet for the Quaker State 400 at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Well, I haven't had a chance to do this in a long while, but I'm going to do it this week. It's easy for me. Ryan Blaney over Joey Logano. That guy's going up for a full 3-unit wager this week.
Cooking with gas, my friend. I love it. I think that makes a lot of sense. This may hurt, but I'm going to take Almirola over Dillon. I just think it's safe. I think Almirola is so reliable, and I like Austin Dillon. I like what he's doing, but he's still running like last year, where he's kind of fighting for the back end of the playoff, but then always having issues kind of coming down the stretch. Where Tyler Reddick clearly has separated himself as a driver this year and is kind of elevated into that next year. I like Dillon. I think he can be a good driver, but there's just still something holding him back. And at a super speedway, I could easily see him getting there. And old man Almirola just kind of cruising down, going for a little Sunday drive and finishing 14th or 18th and being in front of Dillon. So I will put that, and I'll actually add the A just so we know. So I don't try and claim Ty Dillon or something. I will add that. But yep, that is our show for the week. Let us know down in the comments your favorite outright for the week, as well as your favorite DK play under 9K. Make sure you smash the subscribe if you haven't done so. Hit the like button if you are enjoying the content, and make sure you stick around because we will be giving that Christopher Bell signed mini helmet away sooner or later. So make sure you help get us to 500. We're rapidly climbing each and every week. So appreciate everybody who is subscribed, everybody who is coming back for more. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Hopefully we get to enjoy the race on Sunday. If not,
Hopefully,
enjoy the finish on Monday, and we'll talk to you guys next time.